If you were playing an orchestra that accidentally summoned an ancient child-stealing demon, what the hell would you do? This up-and-coming flute player is going to do whatever it takes to make sure that she reaches the top, but when the music starts playing her instead, she's going to realize that she's just made a terrible mistake. We're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the musical demon in The Piper. This woman is about to uncover the most dangerous diss track ever written. Late one night at her house on the edge of town, this musician, Catherine, is in the middle of a heated argument with her orchestra's conductor over their plans for an upcoming fundraiser. The man is trying hard to convince her to play a particular concerto that she's written, but the woman absolutely refuses to ever let the music be played in front of an audience, insisting that it's nothing but pure evil. She's been living in fear of the concerto's power ever since she first performed it 50 years ago. But tonight, she's decided that she's finally had enough. Pulling open a hidden compartment on one of her bookshelves, the woman grabs a small wooden chest and opens it to reveal the yellowed, old sheet music, which almost seems to whisper to her in a strange, demonic voice. With the box in her arms, she races out to the back garden and tosses the entire thing into a fire pit, before dousing it with gasoline and throwing in a match, but that was her biggest mistake. Only a second after the flames start to get going, the lid on the box slams shut to protect the music inside. And although she tries knocking it open with a fire poker, nothing that she does seems to be working. Just then, something catches her attention from just on the edge of the tree line, and she cautiously begins to investigate what the sound could be. At first, it seems like maybe it was nothing, but then all of a sudden, a creature wearing a black cloak and with bright yellow glowing eyes appears from out of the darkness, scaring Catherine so badly that she stumbles backwards directly into the fire pit. Within seconds, the woman is completely engulfed in flames, only managing to stay on her feet for a moment until she falls to the ground, dead. At the same time, a sudden storm blows in and puts out the fire, ensuring that the concerto will find its way to its next victim just in time for the fundraiser. That makes one down, with 4 more to go. Okay, so instead of playing that twisted tune that summons a super demon, Catherine should have been playing games with today's sponsor, the Astra app. If you aren't familiar, Astra app is a rewards app that helps you discover awesome new games and get rewarded for playing them. We all know that feeling of scrolling endlessly through app stores, trying to find that next great game. With Astra, those days are over. Astra uses your interests to recommend games you're guaranteed to love, from hidden gems to chart-topping hits. They have a massive selection of genres, including RPGs, puzzles, match 3, runners, and even hyper-casual games, so there's something for everyone. But Astra is more than just discovery. It's about getting rewarded for doing what you love, playing games. You'll earn Astra coins for completing tasks within the games you play, and those coins can be redeemed for real cash or gift cards to your favorite brands like PayPal, Google Play, Amazon, and more. Astra is all about making your gaming experience fun and personalized. The more you play, the better Astra gets to know you and suggests even better games. Personally, I'm pretty stuck on the Cat Evolution game right now. I'm obsessed. Astra even has built-in social features, so all you How to Beat fans can share your love of gaming with friends, and even earn bonus rewards when they join the app. Now here's the best part. Just for downloading Astra through the link in the description below, or by scanning the QR code on the screen, you'll get a welcome gift of 200 coins and a special welcome coupon. Plus, you'll double your rewards on your first task for the next 24 hours, so you can keep gaming the long way. What are you waiting for? Download Astra today. Discover your next gaming obsession and start getting rewarded for playing games. Okay, damn, Catherine. When the conductor said that he wanted you to write some fire beats for the next concert, I don't think this is what he really had in mind. Hey, forget about the music for a minute. Somebody needs to send Grandma here back to elementary school, because I'm pretty sure we learned what to do if you accidentally catch yourself on fire in, like, the 1st grade. Just stop, drop, and roll, lady. It's really not that hard. But I guess Catherine here must have used up every last one of her brain cells just writing music, because when it comes to burning sheets of paper, she's not very good at that either. Here's an idea. Maybe next time, it might be better to take the thing that you're trying to burn out of the magical fireproof box first, don't you think? And maybe grab an umbrella or something to keep the rain off until the job is done. This should be simple. I mean, we are only fighting a sentient piece of paper after all. It probably could have been defeated by just tearing it up and throwing it in the trash. At least she had a fire poker as a weapon, but that doesn't really help if you're not prepared to use it. When you're breaking an evil curse and the Mothman or whatever shows up to stop you, you've got to be ready to give that freak the old symphony smackdown at a moment's notice. Don't let him jump scare you right back into the fire that you just started. I mean, that's just embarrassing. Now, whatever's going on with this music here, it doesn't take a genius to realize that it's clearly not good. Catherine may have failed her mission, but I've got some ideas for what the next person who comes across it could try instead. When you're coming up against something supernatural, it's never a bad idea to try fighting magic with more magic. We can see that the box appeared to have some kind of protective runes carved into its lid, which were probably containing the music's power in some magical way. Following that logic, we should be able to use magic to weaken it even more, and possibly even allow us to destroy the music completely without this demon spirit interfering with our plans like he did here. A nice traditional salt cycle with some protective symbols traced around the fire pit might provide enough of a buffer to stop old Yellow Eyes out there in the trees from trying any more of his shenanigans, and buy you enough time to finally cancel this concerto once and for all. But maybe you're one of those people who prefers to take the physical approach. You know, a real intellectual like me who plays with a big sword build on Elden Ring and doesn't mess around with all of those hocus pocus abracadabra Hogwarts crap. Well, I've got a plan for us too. We'll keep it simple and try to just throw the music in a wood chipper first. But if that doesn't work, then I'm taking the whole box out to the deepest part of the Mariana Trench with James Cameron and sending it down to Davy Jones's locker. Even if this doesn't destroy it completely, the insane pressure should make it borderline impossible for anyone besides James Cameron to get their hands on it ever again. Of course, you could always just bury the box in your backyard and pour some concrete over it if you don't feel like going all the way out to the middle of the ocean. I'm sure that would work too. You could try tackling the problem on your own, but bringing in the experts is always another great option. The professional of your choice might be able to ritualistically cleanse or exorcise the evil from the music, and if all else fails, you could let them take it for safekeeping like Ed and Lorraine Warren with their Museum of Spooky Objects. At least then it won't be your problem anymore, and sometimes just letting somebody else deal with it is the best beat of all. A few days later, this flutist, Melanie, is at a rehearsal with the rest of her orchestra practicing hard for the fundraiser concert that's coming up at the end of the week. While the band's playing, her deaf daughter Zoe is listening in from backstage, but she's been having some trouble with her hearing aids lately, and the music sounds muffled like she's hearing it from underwater. Her mother is a talented musician with several solos throughout the performance, but when the piece ends, their hard conductor Gustafsson calls them all mediocre and singles Mel out in particular for not doing her best, warning them all that they'd better be prepared in time for the fundraiser or else he might end up going to prison. Before leaving, he makes an announcement that Catherine's loss means that they won't be able to perform her concerto as planned, but says that he's still working on a backup option so that they can still go on with their performance. While everyone's packing up, Mel's arch-rival Franklin starts giving her a hard time about her mistakes during the practice, but her friend Nancy steps in and tells him to beat it. On his way out the door, they notice him sucking up to the conductor as a move to take over Catherine's spot, and Nancy warns Mel that she needs to start doing the same thing. Otherwise, Franklin here is going to outshine her even though she's really the more talented musician. Taking her friend's advice, Mel approaches the conductor and asks him if he's had a chance to check out her new flute concerto, but he quickly shuts her down, saying that she should be more focused on nailing the basics before she comes around looking for the spotlight. Pulling her aside, he explains that Mel here is talented, but she just doesn't have the same powerful stage presence as someone like Franklin. And although she says that she can make make it work if he gives her the chance. The conductor insists that she needs to keep improving on the basics and wait until it's her turn to shine. Meanwhile, Zoe and Nancy's son Colin are playing hide-and-seek on one of the unfinished sets somewhere backstage. The boy wanders out onto the stage calling for his friend when he thinks that he hears someone calling his name from a trapdoor at the back of the set. As he leans in for a closer look, he quickly pulls back, terrified, as someone suddenly emerges from the tunnel down below. But it's only Zoe just goofing around, and she knows just how to make her friend feel better with a nice, spooky story. According to her, there was a fire at the building many years ago where dozens of people passed away, including mostly kids their age. And now that the place has been reopened, you can still sometimes find their ghostly spirits walking the halls. Thankfully, Colin's mom shows up before the exorcist kid here is able to terrify him even more. But pretty soon, he's going to be wishing that the two of them had never met at all. The next day, Mel shows up to Gustafsson's office with some adjustments to her music, but he breaks the news that they've already decided to go with Franklin's score instead. Desperate, she offers to find him Catherine's original score so that they can play it as planned. And now this is finally enough to get the man's attention. She explains that Catherine was actually a close personal mentor of hers at the academy, and that she even knew the woman's family pretty well, so she might be able to talk them into handing over the concerto as a way of memorializing her. Gustafsson here likes the plan, and that's when he decides to fill her in on the music's background. The piece was actually Catherine's first concerto, which she wrote by taking inspiration from old European folktales. The last and only performance happened on the night of that terrible fire all those years back, and afterwards, Catherine refused to ever let it be played again, leaving Mel to believe that every copy had been destroyed. Well, it turns out that Catherine saved just one copy of the piece for herself. And if Mel here can bring it to him in time of the fundraiser, Gustafsson promises her that he can use his connections to make her career finally take off. Okay, I can already see where this is going, and it's not gonna be good. Mel here is about to make a literal deal with the devil, but if she knew Catherine as well as she says that she does, then she'd know that her old mentor would have literally rather died than let the concerto ever be played again. Before going one step further, the first thing that Mel should do is find out more about what really happened to Catherine. I mean, isn't it just a little bit sus that the only other time this concerto was performed, the whole theater burned down and tons of people died? Makes you wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that Catherine intentionally destroyed every copy except for one. And then, to top it all off, she mysteriously passes away just days before the fundraiser is about to happen. All while Gustafsson was clearly pulling hard to get the concerto performed. The red flags start stacking up the moment that you think about it for even a second, and if Mel took some time to look at the situation from an outside perspective, then she'd know that she was walking straight into danger. Now don't get me wrong, Mel still needs to keep her career goals in mind, so I'd start by asking Catherine's family about the concerto first. If they're willing to hand it over, then you're good to go, but if not, it's time to tell Gustafsson that we need to perform something else. I'd suggest playing something else from Catherine's collection. That way, they can still honor her work without playing that particular deadly concerto. If she's worried about how Gustafsson will react, then maybe getting backup from other orchestra members will help, so that it's not just a 1-versus-1 argument. We don't want to get confrontational with the guy for no reason, but if he starts tweaking out, then Mel could threaten to go public about his unethical practices, since conductors rely just as much on their reputation as anyone else. If playing along with Gustafsson doesn't work out, then Mel could always try going independent or getting a teaching job instead. That way she can continue doing what she loves while also putting food on the table and helping future musicians get their start. She's about to realize that any option would have been better than getting involved with the concerto, but by the time that she does, it's gonna be too late. Later that day, Mel sets off on her quest to find the concerto, driving out to Catherine's home somewhere in the woods on the edge of town. As soon as she gets there, one of the first things that she sees are the burned stones from where the woman died. And while she's busy looking at them, Catherine's sister Alice emerges from the house to confront her. Alice here can immediately tell that Mel came out there looking for the music and calls them all shady for trying to turn a profit off of her sister's death. She explains that Catherine never wanted the concerto to be played ever again, and that she was actually trying to burn the final copy when she passed away in the fire. Closing the gate in her face, she sternly asks Mel to just leave them alone, but the flute player here has other plans. Like the weasel that she is, Mel hides just off to the side of the path until she sees the woman leave the property, and then immediately proceeds to break in through an unlocked window without a second's hesitation. Searching the house, she makes her way through the cluttered room looking for any signs of the concerto, until she finally discovers the box containing the music half hidden underneath a sheet up in the attic. Inside of the chest, she finds the charred and scribbled up scraps of sheet music, as well as recordings of the concerto's first two movements, and decides to have a quick listen using a nearby tape recorder. As she's listening to the sinister piano playing, she begins to experience a series of unexplainable visions. And when the recording stops, Mel snaps back into reality like she was in some kind of deep trance. All of a sudden, the weather starts to pick up, and a random crow startles her by crashing into a window right behind her. Mel takes this as a sign to hit the road, but after stuffing what she needs into a box and loading it all into her car, she realizes that she lost her keys somewhere in the house, forcing her to double back inside. In the dark, the house is even more creepy, and while she's grabbing her purse, she gets spooked out by the howling wind blowing through the dozens of old instruments scattered all throughout the attic. Suddenly, she spots what looks like a mysterious dark figure watching her from the shadows, and immediately takes off running back to her car, throwing it into gear just as whatever is after her appears in the headlights, and speeding away down the dirt road back towards safety. Okay, what the hell are we doing here, lady? Are you trying to unleash an ancient demonic curse? Because this right here is exactly how you do it. Rolling up my sleeves for this one. The warning signs here couldn't have been more clear if the damn box had come with a label written on it that said, "Do not open." I mean, she literally had to step over her dead mentor's ashes just to get in there. Alice made it pretty damn clear that she didn't want the concerto performed, but did Mel here listen to a single word that the woman said? Hell no! She'd rather go full Indiana Jones on some cursed sheet music. And Mel here isn't even a good criminal. This moron left DNA evidence all over the crime scene. The first thing that she did was pick up a random flute and leave her spit on it, and she touched just about every surface in the house as she walked through. What's even worse is that Alice already knows she was there looking for the music, so who does the worst burglar ever here think that the cops will be looking for first when it goes missing, huh? Oh well, have fun teaching music class in prison, I guess. For better or worse, now she has the concerto, but if she had any doubts that the thing was pure evil, I'd say she found out the truth as soon as she decided to listen to it. Any time that you find an object where touching it puts you into a trance state, crows start flying into windows, and a demonic creature starts stalking you from the shadows, it's obvious that you better leave that shit alone. Mel could complete her quest and hand the music over to Gustafsson, but from everything that we've seen so far, I'd say that it's a terrible idea. The better thing would be to finish what Catherine started and just get rid of the music for good. The first thing that Mel here needs to do is take a deep breath and realize that she is in danger. From now on, I'd leave the concerto and the recordings in their box and never open it or listen to them ever again. She could try the strategies for destroying it that we mentioned before, or just skip that step and go straight to turning the box over to the experts. Of course, she could also bring it right back to Alice and let her keep it safe, or work together with the woman to think of more ways to potentially destroy the damn thing for good. When she finally brings her findings back to Gustafsson, he's frustrated to see that they're missing the concerto's third movement, saying that they can't play the piece without a proper ending. Refusing to give up, Mel promises that she can finish the music herself using what she remembers from studying under Catherine at the academy. But she'll have to get it done in time for the fundraiser at the end of the week. So the conductor here tells her to get started right away and make him proud. Determined to get this right, Mel hits the lab and starts cooking. But the only problem is that every time she listens to the recording, she's haunted by sudden visions of unimaginable terror and torment. Concerned, she decides to visit her friend Philip, who teaches music theory at the local university. After class, Philip takes a listen to the recordings himself and quickly becomes entranced by the rhythm just like Mel did. Grabbing a particular section, she points out how Catherine left a message written in Latin at the top of the sheet: "Bring discord to harmony, bring chaos to cosmos," which Philip speculates could be a reference to how music can be both peaceful and rebellious depending on how it's performed. While giving a demonstration on a device called a harmonograph, he explains how even a small change can turn harmony into chaos, and how in the past, many ancient cultures believed that certain types of music possessed demonic qualities that could latch onto people's souls and drive them insane. Before heading out, Mel leaves Philip with one of the tapes to study for a bit while she goes back to work. Meanwhile, Zoe is over at her friend Colin's place, while his mother is busy practicing on her violin. While she's distracted, the two of them sneak back over to Zoe's apartment where she leaves him alone while she grabs some things from her bedroom. The instant that she's gone, Colin here locks in on the tape recorder and starts listening to the first part of the concerto out of curiosity. When Zoe returns a moment later, she finds her buddy completely lost in the sauce, and as they head down to the basement to play some more hide and seek, he can't stop talking about how listening to it gave him terrifying visions of a mysterious lake. Thinking none of it, Zoe takes off into the basement to hide, leaving Colin to count to 20 before searching for her on his own. Down one of the dingy-looking hallways, he notices Zoe's ball rolling out in front of him, and when he walks over to pick it up, he sees that it came out of a pitch-dark maintenance room. Not wanting to step aside, Colin instead rolls the ball away into the darkness, and sure enough, the ball comes rolling right back to him. But something tells him that this isn't Zoe who he's dealing with anymore. Instead of turning around, the kid decides to walk further into the darkness looking for his friend. But when he turns on one of the flickering lights, he sees a horrifying cloaked figure with a demonic face. Terrified, the boy turns back towards the hallway where Zoe suddenly grabs him by the shoulder. Back upstairs, Colin is clearly disturbed by whatever happened, but he has no idea that the nightmare is really just getting started. Late that night, his mother finds him still awake in bed, whistling the music to himself and saying that he can't get it out of his head. Eventually, the boy does manage to drift off to sleep, but he wakes up terrified in the middle of the night with the feeling that there's a strange presence in the room with him. Grabbing a flashlight, he looks around the room and under his bed, where he discovers a cute little rat hanging out down there by the rest of his stuff. He tries throwing a blanket over it, but the rat starts crawling straight towards him, forcing the boy to back up towards the darkness in his closet. And the moment he gets close, the demonic presence pulls him back into the shadows as his eyes glaze over completely white. That makes 2 down, with 3 more to go. Okay, now this whole debacle could have been avoided if they hadn't made 2 crucial mistakes. Mistake 1 was Mel leaving out the sheet music of Unimaginable Torment for just anyone to come along and listen to. And mistake number 2 was Colin here not being truthful with his mother about what happened. What is it with kids and playing hide and seek in creepy basements anyway? I swear they're like poo to freaking honey with this kind of stuff. If there's a creepy basement around, they'll find it. And when are we, as a society, going to learn not to fall for the whole ball rolling out of the darkness trick? I mean, whoo, if I ever see that one again. That's the topic for another video in this case, but can we say that it's all probably because they're under the Piper's spell, which brings us to the real root of the issue? We need to find a way to resist the Piper's mind-controlling music, or as Nancy called it, an earworm. It's the type of song that's catchy, repetitive, and has a way of popping into your brain at the precise moment when you put your head on the pillow to get some sleep. That's annoying without the demonic presence. So how do we get rid of it? I'd try replacing it with another, even catchier song. Not the perfect solution, I know, but when you're up against a musical demon, you gotta do what you gotta do. Trying a distracting activity like playing some PlayStation or even just drowning it out with some white noise might also help. The key is to do anything to get the music out of your head, and then as long as you can go long enough without being exposed to it again, you should be alright. Finding a way to resist the brainwashing might have saved Colin's life, but if we're being honest, he was probably done the second that he listened to that tape. It's too late for him, but hopefully now Mel can see the danger here and put a stop to this before the Piper claims another victim. In the morning, Mel wakes up to Colin's mother Nancy pounding on her apartment door, and she's in a total panic as she explains that her son has disappeared from his bedroom without a trace. The police show up to investigate, but so far they aren't able to come up with any leads. And Zoe can't seem to shake the feeling that whatever happened to her friend must have been because of Catherine's strange music. On the opposite end of things, Gustafsson is absolutely pumped with what Mel's managed to come up with so far. But when he senses that she's still lacking the confidence to really bring it home, he decides that he needs to give her some more inspiration. Bringing her out to the center of the stage, he tells her that he's officially raising the stakes. Either she gets the concerto finished by tomorrow, or he's kicking her out of the orchestra altogether. When it's time for that day's rehearsal to start, Mel takes a seat in the theater while the rest of the orchestra practices the first two movements of the piece. As they play, the music progressively starts getting more and more demonic, causing Mel to see more of the strange visions while her nose starts to bleed, until Franklin suddenly kneels over and hits the floor. He gets up quickly and says that he's alright, but Mel here is finally starting to realize that there might be a reason why Catherine was trying to destroy the music after all. Out in the theater lobby, Mel's looking over some memorial photos of Catherine when she makes a shocking discovery. The lake and scenery from one of the pictures looks just like the place that she's been seeing in her visions, and the photo is labeled Hamelin, Germany, 1973. Matching up with the exact time and place where Catherine supposedly wrote her concerto. This leads her to open up a book of children's fairy tales when she gets home, and flip through until she finds what she's looking for: the story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. At the same time, Zoe comes in saying that she can't sleep after what happened with Colin, so Mel tells her to sit on down for a bedtime story. The legend of the Pied Piper goes like this. Hundreds of years ago in the town of Hamelin, the townspeople hired a mysterious traveler to get rid of all the town's rats. But when the peasants refused to pay up after the job was done, the piper played a song on his flute that led all of the children away in the middle of the night, never to be seen again. When she gets to the ending, Mel realizes that this may have not been the best bedtime story after all, and sends Zoe back to bed while she gets back to work, never realizing that the legend is coming true once again. At some point in the night, while Mel is busy working, curiosity gets the better of Zoe here, and she decides to listen to the tape for herself. While she's listening to the first piece, the piper reaches out a demonic hand to grab her, but the girl gets frightened and takes out her hearing aids just in time, breaking the spell without ever really knowing how close she was to being taken. The next morning, Mel wakes up in a bed surrounded by dozens of pages of sheet music that she has absolutely no memory of writing herself. Concerned, she decides to do some deeper research into Catherine's performance on the night of the mysterious fire, and she's starting to realize that there might be more to the story than just an accident. Later that afternoon, Zoe here is out on the school playground during recess when she starts to hear a strange ringing noise in her ears, and turns around to find her favorite kickball rolling around the side of the building. It leads her over to an unused old school bus on the back of the property, and as she gets closer to the back, the ringing becomes so strong that she decides to take out her hearing aids altogether. As she turns around to go back towards the exit, she's startled by the sudden appearance of the piper blocking her only path of escape, and he starts playing his flute so hard that it shatters all of the windows. But since Zoe isn't wearing her hearing aids, she manages to escape him for the second time. Okay, that was a close call for Zoe, but on the bright side, these encounters have helped us learn some important information. Now we finally know who we're up against, and also a few things that might help us get rid of him the next time that he shows up. Not having her hearing aids in is what saved Zoe's life, and this actually matches up with the original story of the Pied Piper. In it, there were only 3 kids in town who didn't follow him, either because they couldn't walk, couldn't hear him, or couldn't see where he was going. It's a long shot, but maybe cuffing yourself to something strong or blindfolding yourself would help you resist the Piper's influence whenever he showed up. I'd also stock up on earplugs and headphones, or try using feedback from Mel's music equipment to drown out the sounds of his playing. If we're going off ideas from the story, then just paying him off might also do the trick. The only problem with that is he would want to be paid in, 1,000 golden guilders, which is equal to around about 45,000 USD, or about 7 million V-Bucks. And not everyone has that kind of change lying around under the couch, you know? Still, maybe Mel here could trick him with a bag full of gold doubloons from the party store, just long enough to banish him back into his own realm. Since the demon always appears in a physical form, this means that you can always try my personal favorite approach of just beating the shit out of him. You don't even have to win the fight, just damage his hands enough that he can't play the flute anymore, and that should solve the problem. If all else fails, then we could always go with the good old meat shield strategy. All that you'd have to do is get another classmate from the neighborhood who Zoe really doesn't like to listen to the music as bait, and then try jumping the Piper when he shows up to claim their soul. As for Mel, the first thing that I would do if I were her would be to just throw out all the pens and paper in my apartment to stop myself from writing anymore. There was also something important that Philip mentioned during their conversation a while back. The message on the paper that said something about bringing discord to harmony. If we reverse that logic, then maybe by finding common ground with her arch-nemesis Franklin, the two of them can make a harmony so powerful that it overpowers the Piper's song and breaks the curse. Whatever she does, she needs to figure it out soon, because she only has a matter of hours before Gustafsson and Franklin open the gates to the Piper's world once again. At home, Zoe admits to her mom that she and Colin both listened to the tape and starts freaking out, saying that she can still feel the music in her head and just wants it to stop. As a solution, Mel and the girl play a song of their own together, and it seems to help for now, but getting rid of the Piper for good will not be so easy. After putting Zoe to bed, Mel starts gathering up all of the sheet music back into the closet, but as she does, the door to her bedroom mysteriously cracks open on its own, and she goes to check it out thinking that there might be an intruder. Pulling open the closet, she finds nothing but another little rat hanging out inside, but just then, the demon appears from behind the door and rushes towards her, possessing the woman before she even has a chance to react. Hearing the commotion, Zoe nervously comes to check on her mother and finds her huddled over the desk, writing away music like a maniac. When she taps her on the shoulder, the woman spins around with her eyes glowing demonic orange and shoves the poor kid to the ground. But she tears up one of the sheets of paper out of anger, which seems to break the spell for now. Realizing that she needs to stop the concert, Mel races over to the theater where they're having that night's recital. But Gustafsson here is absolutely pissed when he hears what she has to say. Seeing an opportunity, Franklin interrupts the conversation to say that he can finish the concerto if Mel will not, and the conductor officially kicks her out of the band, thinking that she's completely lost it. Refusing to give up, Mel calls Philip over to watch Zoe while she goes to follow up on some new theories. Before leaving, she notices that Philip seems out of it too, and correctly guesses that he hasn't been feeling right since she showed him the tapes. What's even stranger is that he managed to unjumble the last part of the recording, and from what he can make out, it seems like there's a demonic voice speaking more Latin, including the phrase, "My world is discord." As crazy as it sounds, Mel explains that she thinks the Piper from the story is using them to finish the music, and says that she's going back to Catherine's house to see if she can find any more information that might help them stop it. Searching the attic where she found the music, Mel discovers something strange that she had not noticed before. Hidden behind the wallpaper, she finds the final movement of Catherine's original concerto. But that's when she realizes that she isn't alone. Turning around, she's startled to find Alice sitting there in the darkness behind her like some kind of creep. It turns out that the woman knew about the cursed music all along and watched her sister struggle over the years to keep it hidden away. Although Alice insists that there's no way to stop it once you've heard the music, the conversation suddenly causes Mel to realize that she might be able to break the Piper's spell by countering his chaos with her own memory. But she'll have to stop the fundraiser before it's too late. Back at home, Zoe starts hearing Colin's voice in her head and follows the noise over to his bedroom, without Philip ever noticing that she's gone. For a moment, it seems like nothing's there, but then all of a sudden, his mother's studio equipment starts playing the Piper's music, even though the speakers aren't powered on. And before Zoe can figure out how to stop it, the creature appears behind her and drags the girl away, making 3 down with 2 more to go. Okay, well, it looks like Zoe here just caught the next flight to Piperland. And the worst part is that it's all her mother's fault. Alice tried to warn you, but you decided to live a life of crime instead, and now you're paying the price. So guess what, Mel? You f***ed up. I'm gonna keep it real with you, Mel Dog. This entire disaster here is completely your own fault. You let your career ambitions lead you down a path where unleashing literal demon music on the world seemed like a good idea, and put not only your own child at risk, but countless others too, all just for some brownie points with the Whiplash guy. The hard truth is that you should have done something about it the moment this demon started using you as a conduit to finish his song. But now that you let Franklin and the conductor get their hands on it, you just ended up spreading the chaos even more. The worst part of it all is that you left your daughter with Philip as if he was going to protect her, even though he clearly also was under the Piper's spell. Earth to Mel, somehow the kid had the power to just rip these indestructible sheets of music in half. So why not let her destroy the whole concerto and call it a day? Although, I guess that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree when it comes to her, does it? Considering Zoe here thought that it would be a good idea to follow the sound of her missing friend's voice down a dark hallway. The solution was staring you right in the face. Just go to the theater and sabotage all of their stuff. No concert, no Piper, at least for now anyway. But instead, you went all the way back to the house and accomplished absolutely nothing, besides letting Zoe get taken, and for that, Mel, you f***ed up. Across town, the fundraiser is already in full swing, and now it's time for the night's final performance. As Gustafsson turns to face the crowd, he brings out Franklin to lead the orchestra as they prepare to play Catherine's concerto for the first time in nearly 50 years. The piece begins normally enough, but as the intensity of the music starts to build, Franklin's eyes suddenly glow yellow, and the entire crowd falls into a trance. Mel arrives at the theater hell-bent on stopping the show before something terrible happens. But before she can interrupt the performance, the music reaches a fever pitch. And now the Piper's ritual is complete. Finally, Mel is able to cut the lights, but it's too late, and lightning begins to flash inside of the theater as large wooden doors appear in the center of the stage. All of a sudden, Franklin screams in pain as a demonic hand emerges from his neck, and the Piper himself literally explodes straight out of the man's body. Turning his attention to Gustafsson, the Piper reaches out and effortlessly crushes his skull with one hand, making 5 down, with a whole theater full of people left to go. With all of the adults lost in a trance, the Piper pulls out his evil flute and starts playing a tune as he leads all of the children from the audience away through the door. For some reason, the only person not affected by it is Mel here, and with no other choice, she decides to follow after them into the Piper's realm. Stepping through the door, she's instantly transported to some kind of up Narnia land, where she can see the Piper in the valley below leading the children down a snowy path, including her own daughter Zoe. Luckily, Mel is able to pull her away from the group just in time, and after taking out her hearing aids, the girl is able to resist the music long enough to help her mother rush back to safety, but not without the Piper noticing what they're up to. They make it back to the theater in one piece, but as they're hugging it out, the Piper rushes out of the doorway and flings Mel across the room before turning to go after Zoe. Terrified, the girl sprints away backstage, hiding under the same trapdoor where she pranked Colin a few days before. Getting to her feet, Mel grabs Franklin's flute and goes after them, catching up just as the Piper is closing in on her daughter beneath the stage. That's when Mel starts playing the Piper's song, but with her own personal twist on the harmony, and the Piper is temporarily forced to retreat, unable to resist the music. It looks like she has him on the ropes, but as soon as she stops playing, the creature springs to his feet and corners Mel against some stage props, ready to take his final revenge. Just then, Zoe steps onto the stage playing her own instrument, and she and her mother begin rocking out so hard together that they literally blow the Piper's mind with the power of music, causing an army of rats to emerge from his body and begin devouring the demon alive. With the monster defeated, all of the children are able to safely return through the door, including Zoe's friend Colin, and it looks like the curse has finally been broken once and for all. Or at least, that's what they think. 3 months later, Zoe is playing her recorder for her music teacher while her mother and Philip wait for her outside. Mel seems to think that none of the other children remember what happened, but that's when Zoe tells her teacher that she wants to play her own version of an old song, and her eyes begin to glow yellow as she starts to play the Piper's tune, proving that the demon is still around after all. The Piper, a deep cut, a throwback, an all-around solid, crazy, up movie. I liked it, but let me know down in the comments what you thought. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. I'm the Guy. We'll see you in the next video, and have a damn good day.